G'day everybody, how's it going out there? Well, we're going to get back to some informational things without too much finagling and ear-ringing. Not to get back to some good nonfiction. And what I mean by that is good nonfiction that people might find useful. And that is me telling you who else talks about nonfiction in the furry fandom and who else should, other channels and institutions that should be recognized, other than Dogpatch, Press, and Flayrah. Dogpatch, Press, and Flayrah are known pretty well throughout the furry fandom. They've won multiple Ursa majors, I think about 2 or 3 apiece. I was a writer when Flayrah won their Ursa majors. That was basically after a few years after Green Reaper took over editor-in-chief, and when he was the sole editor, and as soon as all that happened. So, it's won some Ursa majors, and I was proud to be a writer for Flayrah when it did win its Ursa majors for Furry magazine. There was also Dogpatch Press, who, for those of you who don't know, and we'll go over this next episode a little bit, spoiler alert, but before Dogpatch Press existed as its own sort of news / wet furry, current events style of media on its own, separate from Flayrah. Patch as a person was a writer at Flayrah and wrote articles for Flayrah. The reason he went out his own way was because the editor-in-chief, Green Reaper, took over Ink Bunny, and he was so busy dealing with Ink Bunny and trying to get used to Ink Bunny and running Ink Bunny that him as the sole editor basically had too much on his plate and was basically letting articles that we wrote for him sit on the sidelines, and it caused irregular updates, right? And Dogpatch got impatient, so he let off and did his own website. That's the etymology of Dogpatch. But we're here to talk about things other than Flayrah and Dogpatch. We're here to talk about 6 other nonfiction providers who are Ursa major winners and non-Ursa major winners alike, but ones that are things. We'll have a few Ursa major winners, and I'll mention them when they pop up. The first one we're going to talk about is the one that won the Ursa majors this year. And when it comes to a or furry magazine, the committee, I think, the committee that decides which nominations should qualify, I think have kind of laid back a bit when it and have gone a little bit more easier on what should be defined as a magazine. Apparently, YouTube channels can qualify as a magazine, and the winner of the 2020 Ursa Major Awards this year was one Procari Rue. And I might have done a spoiler click there. I was not up far enough. Come on, click your hands. There you go, the best boys. So, the bottle series is, I think, the most nonfiction thing. So she does furry slice of life things, and has general mishmash of things. There's not really any sort of flow to it, but the bottle does cover a lot of fursuiting topics and topics surrounding the concept of fursuits. The reason why she named her channel The Bottle really is because you gotta keep hydrated whenever you're in fursuit. Don't be like me, who sits here and talks to you for a half hour without taking any drinks of water. You need to drink your water, okay? Drink the water. Drink the water, okay? Wow, water. I don't have a bottle. I need the bottle to drink water. So, she's got some really good content, and there'll be a card up in there for the YouTubers here. I think one of the more interesting ones, was I was going to do a whole video about how to do fursuiting when your hotel is not connected to the hotel that you're actually doing or the convention center that you're doing the thing in, and that would be bring a laundry bag, like a plastic laundry bag, and stick your fursuit into it, and then bring the laundry bag with you, and then basically open the laundry bag. Find a restroom, right? Dress up in your character costume, and then stick the laundry bag in like another bag, right? Or like something like that. Stick it in like a carry bag that you would carry with you. And she, bless her, it's like I'd come up with that on my own. It's like, I'm original. And it's like apparently furries already knew that. It's like I learned things on my own that everyone else learns from talking to each other. And that's why nonfiction is important. And she presented it so well, it's like, I'm not going to do a video on it anymore. She'd already did it. She did it better. So, you know, she covers a lot of fursuiting aspects, maintenance, things like that. So if you want to have good fursuit coverage and good talks about fursuits, her channel is the one for you. Ironically, that very first video I was talking, as I said, she did a thing on her channel that was kind of critiquing her first channel. She basically was like, I'm going to take a look back at my first bottle episode and how much I like it. And and she was like reacting to her first thing and sort of cringing. I've gone back to my first things and I kind of cringe, but ironically, the first ever video I did as a review was being a furry sans fursuit, basically without a fursuit, and why it can be difficult to acquire one, both financially and socially, and why people who have them are privileged, and you know, going over how stressful it can be for some furries to not be able to acquire a fursuit, but how and why some furries just don't even bother and are actually very happy without a fursuit, and basically covering how the mainstream media kind of goes over that. So ironically, it's sort of the opposite, where like her channel is very much talking about fursuit creators, artists, and people who create fursuits and things like that. So if you like fursuit, good fursuit content, and good content about nonfiction about fursuits, that channel is the one for you. So let's talk about number 2 here, and I forgot what order I put these in because I'm a professional, and that's what professionals do. Ah, yes, Abergwine, furries in the media. She's back. Ironically, I had like this whole YouTuber thing written up like 4 years ago, which I never published, which happens sometimes. I'm like, I'm gonna write this thing, and then like half of the YouTubers that I wrote about kind of faded, and so did Abergwine. But Abergwine is back, baby. She's back. She's back to rate furry representation in the media. And that's what her channel's all about. Very meta. It's nonfiction about furries. Very meta. So, I mean, her title speaks for itself. You know exactly what you're getting when you get there. So she'll basically talk about things, either fictional media such as Pottersville or Furry CSI, or nonfiction coverage such as MTV or other little things that go to conventions or whatever. She will cover how the media covers furries, basically. So it's a very good channel. I like it, and you can click on it up there and show your support. Unfortunately for her, she hasn't won a Ursa Major yet. So if she continues doing it this year, I think she would be a good nominee. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like if she makes good content all year long, it's like furries in the media would be a good thing to nominate, I do believe. So next one up on the list, Culturally Effed. These ones have won an Ursa Major. I can't remember the year. I think it was 2017. I think it was either 2016 or 2017. But Culturally Effed, they've tapered a little bit in their production. The original staff that was running it had kind of had a little bit of a reshuffling, as it were. But he's still creating content. RK is still creating content for Culturally Effed. Despite a lot of heartbreak, they had reached 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and they were going to do some sort of thing in Canada where they were going to have access to a studio. But I think it was just before the coronavirus, or because of the corona thing, basically that business went out. So he's like, there goes something I was really looking forward to. And then one of his buddies moved out, who was one of the people who helped with the whole thing. So life has a way of kind of causing hindrances, and you just ask Furcast, how that goes. So he's still creating content, if a little bit slower than he used to. But he does do, his staff does do interviews with voice actors. They do talk about the culture of furry and culture within furry, and sort of people trying to find their identities and who they are, and trying to make their way in this world of ours through anthropomorphism, and how anthropomorphism has been used since times of old to try to be guideposts for people on their way. And he covers topics such as that, in a sort of archaeological sense, I suppose. But if you like to talk about hearing about furry culture and cultures of art, like he covers a vast variety of topics, animation, art, things like that. And Culturally Left is a good one if you're not watching these already. I will say, if you don't know who those first three are and you're here, how is my question. I have less than 1,000 subscribers. These guys have this guy is over 100K, I think. I think he still does. Abergwine's got a pretty hefty amount, and Picari Rouge, she's got subscribers to spare. So obviously, if you're here, you probably already know these, but I'm just doing this because I think that people should have broad horizons when it comes to nonfiction. You shouldn't be just getting information from one source. Don't ever do that. Broaden your horizons. Because I could get hit by a bus. And then if you are just relied on me, then the whole furry fandom would go. And it's no one wants that to happen. No one wants the communities they helped along the way to disappear just because one voice is no longer a part. That's the reality of life. And that's the beauty of education. It's iterative. Anyways, speaking of pure nonfiction, that's going to replace me. If they haven't already, these guys actually do have less subscribers than I do, but they are catching up real fast, and I suspect that they will surpass me before I hit my 1,000. Just making a guess. They're probably gonna hit 1,000 before I do, and they should. They deserve to. This is Global Furry Television. Global Furry Television is a less rambly punditry style. My videos tend to ramble a bit. They tend to go off on tangents. I tend to cover topics in a way, in a candor that normally is not technically professional journalism. But I'm wearing a suit, so I'm allowed. No, I'm wearing a suit. But the person, as far as I know, who runs this channel, by the way, isn't a fursuiter. As far as I know, they might be in the market for a fursuit, but they're just a regular plain old human. You will see them, and you'll see when they show themselves on camera, you will see their human form. I think they also hail from the east side of our planet, and not from the west. I can't remember if it was Singapore. I think it was Singapore. I think they come from Singapore or South Korea. I can't remember which one, unfortunately, because my dang Yankee brain can't figure out where those things are. I think it was. I'm 90% sure it was Singapore, and then 10% of me is saying, and maybe it was South Korea, but from an Asian country, right? But they present in English. They present very clearly, and they're less rambly than I am, and they have professional little bumpers and things at the bottom of the screen, and here's what we're going to talk about now, and here's some pictures with some, the very professional news looking things. And as professional myself, that's what we call them. I'm more guy with a camera punditry style, okay? He actually has AP, NPR journalistic style. And he's covered some topics that I haven't covered here. And he's been keeping up with it, even though I've been on my hiatus for doing the bad, right? For being unprofessional in an actual detrimental way instead of in a weird candor kind of way. So anyways, if you really want to know latest happenings and furry news and get topics on a more regular basis than this channel and covering topics that I might not get to, you should definitely subscribe to Global Furry Television. I would highly recommend it, and I think it's honestly, I think it's criminal that they have less subscribers than I do. They should have more than I do, and they will probably get there. All right, so who's next? Not you. I already covered you. Infernation. This one did win an Ursa Major. It won it a long time ago. I think it was back in the late 2000s or the early 2010s. But Infernation is a very good magazine. They update frequently. These guys talk about furry content a lot. Usually they cover what the latest furry content coming out is. Usually a lot of books, a lot of animation, a lot of art, talking about sort of content that comes out and talking about it. So if you want to know the latest of furry content that you can consume, these guys would be a good place to go for that. They usually update. I think it's daily or bi-daily. Like it's multiple times a week. Update more frequently than Flayrah and Dogpatch, that's for sure. And for a written platform, that's impressive. No, not so impressive with Flayrah. I've been kind of lazy, but they are there. And if you obviously, I'll put a link in the description below for all of the sites and places to go. But you can also find these guys on Flayrah because they've been a sort of what do they call them? Like sort of a sort of a side content, like partner content that is sort of on the sidebar at Flayrah. They have a section in the Flayrah margins where you could see their daily sort of post, and they have it on site on Flayrah as well. So there's like a copy of what they put on their site on Flayrah, obviously formatted a little differently, but same content's there. So if you're ever curious, you can also check it out on Flayrah.com as well. And last, but certainly not least, this one's a new one. They have not won an Ursa Major because they're relatively new from what I can tell. But their content did come up, and I was quite curious. There is a sort of blog that came up that seems to talk about PR and branding within furry fandom. I think that's what they're called. They're called Anthrobrands. They recently wrote an article here, which they tweeted about how you deal with trying to seek validation from others, right? The whole need and desire to seek validation from others, and how it, it's natural, but it can be a hindrance sometimes. There's an article that the Anthrobrands creator wrote that you can read there, and their blog has multiple posts with similar topics about probably PR, conduct, candor, things like that, and how to better present things in that, which would probably be good for me because that I could absolutely find some use in that. And it's interesting because we do have like nonfiction writers who cover things like furry business. There was a book that was released about there's like 3 tigers or something, and one's the artsy one and one's the business one, and one's the there was a third one and I can't remember who it was, but so there's like a lot of nonfiction books out there where furries are talking about topics that can be of general help and education to you, even if it's not exactly furry related, but you can use that to improve your life inside and outside the community, which is the important part about nonfiction, and why I think it's an essential part of any community diet. Consuming fiction is great; it's great escapism, but at times, if you read nonfiction content, you can sometimes confront life instead of always having to run from it. So, anyways, That is all the nonfiction ones I was going to talk about here. Hopefully I have not cursed any of them, and the reason I say that is because about a year or two ago, I did cover a nonfiction site that was called Good Furry News, which was supposed to talk about good content and things. It was like, had art direction from Paco, and I think it had like a CJ Husky leading it. It was like this like gray and pink dog character. And they did it for about, they hopped on it, they did it for about a month and a half, and then they kind of tapered off. I gotta say, nonfiction content and nonfiction coverage is a difficult thing to do, especially if it seems like people don't care about those things. But the reality is that even though it can be boring, it can be dry sometimes, it is important to the community. It is an essential service to the community to be able to talk about the events surrounding the community, the media that covers us, and to be the media and to be better and to behave as a sort of curation of ideas and content and things like that. And speaking of which, I know what my next week's video is going to be already, which is very rare. And speaking of nonfiction, is we're going to be talking about that curation and making people aware of things. If you've been watching Furry YouTube, you might have seen a thing called Furry Mate being advertised on channels that have enough subscribers to have monetization. Thank you, YouTube! We will be talking about that and a little bit of that history next time. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Kick that like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section, and be sure to subscribe and watch those the people on the link in the description below if you have not already, because it is good to have a broad spectrum when it comes to nonfiction content, so that you get your information from multiple sources about the things you care about. And with that, I will see you guys next time. Is my end card good? Yeah, I have an end card.